listening to the Capital PTBO Sports Show, an MNC podcast production, simulcast on your TV, Peterborough, Lindsay. You can come check us out at the Capital PTBO at 370 George Street North anytime, online at thecapitalptbo.ca. Coming up on the show today, harsh words from Sheldon Keefe already. How good will the Raptors be? And does the baseball playoffs need refiguring out? All of that plus emails, mano y mano, and we'll elect our sports city councilors in honor of the election on Monday. Producer Matty, he's here. My main man, Mark Million, as well. Gentlemen, this show would not be possible without the support and friendship of our good friend, Brian Goldfinger.
Absolutely right.
Brian runs Goldfinger Personal Injury Law. He dedicates his practice exclusively on behalf of accident victims, disability claimants, and their families. He's a plaintiff personal injury lawyer through and through. He doesn't accept money to work on behalf of insurance companies. He has been championing the rights of the little guy like us since he was called to the bar of the Law Society of Upper Canada back in 2004. And the best part, he's won millions and millions of dollars on behalf of his clients, both inside and outside of the courtroom. If you're ever injured, you can give a call, 1-877-730-1777 for a free consultation. Thank you so much, Brian Goldfinger, for all your help with us here on the program.
Absolutely. Can we get him a round of applause for that, Latour? Can we?
Yeah.
Let's get that queued up. I usually save it for when I win trivia, but here we go.
There you go, Brian. Thank you.
Wow.
And just as that's going, we're also thankful to everyone out there who support us via Patreon at patreon.com/capitalptbo. If you go and make a monthly donation, you can get your name on the blackboard behind me and in turn be eligible to win the wheel of Win Nothing.
He's got it.
He got it.
The kid's got it.
I almost put the other one that I'm not going to mention.
You took like a 1 week sabbatical from this show and came back and you've nailed it both weeks.
Because you nailed it, so I felt the pressure.
Yeah.
That's fair. That's
Beautiful.
Fair.
All right. Are we going to do it?
We're spinning this thing.
All right.
Same 6 names as last week.
Let's get Brad Sinclair a win. He's the longest serving Patreon member without a win. Let's see if we can roll the dice and get Brad one today.
The wheel is spinning. I'd like to note I won the wheel last week. I had a good show last week as far as winning.
Yeah.
And the winner this week is Producer Matty again.
No.
I don't like it.
No, fired.
Come on.
No, end of the segment.
I don't like it at all.
I control the sound effects.
Brad, we're trying. We're 100% trying. So thank you, Brad Sinclair, Matt Latour, Maurice Cormier, Shane Sayer, Dara Scollard, Jimmy Murray. We really appreciate the continued support. It allows us to give you sound effects like that. And Matty, I'm not sure why he's rigging it, and I'm sorry that he is, but we'll solve that problem next week.
Patreon.com/capitalptbo. Before we get into the National Hockey League news, this is kind of an inside baseball one here. We came in today, and you were doing some impression of a voice that used to exist. And it's something that has just been hanging around in my mind, and this is my theater for when I'm curious about things that I can ask.
Uh-huh.
What is this voice?
Oh, my gosh.
What does it mean? Where did it come from?
Oh,
and
my God.
It's like a bad song that you hear in your head, and I keep playing it over and over and over. Can you at least indulge me and lay it out here?
Yeah. So, okay. I had no idea you were going to do this on the show. Okay.
This is about its honest reaction.
Last week, I put it out into the ether while we're warming, getting the thing ready. Matty's getting everything ready. And I put it out there like this. Hey, everybody. It's me, the champ. And Mercier just pops every time. So if you okay over there? He's all right. He'll be fine. Okay, so the champ initially started like 40 years ago on McLean and McLean. So McLean and McLean were kind of like a comedy songwriting country duo that were very crude. And then a guy named, I think it's Jake Edwards, he had a radio bit. Anyway, so in the early 90s, they used to play the champ on, it was licensed to Q107. I think also AM 640, The Hog, also used to carry it. So the champ is like, if Jake Edwards, I know you're not watching, but like if Jake was ever watching, I would really love the opportunity because it was hilarious. So the idea of the champ was this. The champ had like a couple of friends like Knuckles Muldoon, and there was another guy, And then, of course, Mrs. Champ.
And these are all fictional characters.
All
in this
fictional
story,
characters,
right?
of course. But the champ was meant to be kind of like a punch-drunk sort of, but at the drop of a hat, he could lay a guy out. So, and it's heavy on innuendo, of course, as it would be. Do we have time for one? Is it even possible? Are you going to be able to hold it together or no?
I don't know, but I think we've brought the listeners into our weird little lair, so we got to give them one.
Okay.
Let's just make it your TV appropriate.
Yeah, your TV.
We'll save another one for the other podcast.
Okay, so here's this one will be Old Man McGinty. Okay.
Dalton.
Yeah, Old Man Dalton McGinty. So it goes something like this. Hey, everybody, it's me, the champ. And ever since I've been the champ, Mrs. Champ, she enjoys going out into the yard and making things look nice and all landscaped and keeps things beautiful. Well, over the winter, unfortunately, we lost Old Man McGinty's big tree that used to stand out in the front yard. He had a big oak tree, and we had to cut it down, of course. And so Mrs. Champ, she doesn't like the idea of just having it, the tree cut down and not being landscaped or anything. So she goes ahead and she does a little bit of work in Old Man McGinty's yard. So Knuckles Muldoon walks over and he says, hey, Champ, what are you doing? Champ says, well, I'm clearly doing some landscaping here. Me and Mrs. Champ are trying to make the yard look all nice, Well, Champ, I walked by yesterday and I seen Mrs. Champ had planted her tulips around Old Man McGinty's stump. I said, pardon.
It's those kind of little stories.
And then, so then it continues from there, and then the champ head face. So then the end of the segment went that
him fighting somebody?
The champ would have to fight Knuckles Muldoon over what he said about Mrs. Champ. And the whole thing. So it's not mine. I don't own that. That was a real champ, but I love them. I always say them to myself. So there you go. A little bit of background about the champ. Shout out to Brother Jake.
I did some research here on Brother Jake as well.
Yeah.
Canadian Broadcast Industry Hall of Fame 2019, and worked here in Peterborough.
Yeah.
At a local radio station.
Go figure.
There you go.
Well,
That's hold on. We got to go one more time.
when you did that last week, and I just, for some reason, it was this little earworm in my... I was doing it.
I'm going to try to get, as producer, I'm going to try to get a hold of Jake Edwards now. I feel
Just
like
tell
I
us
have
the
to.
story.
I'd love to. Yeah, it's a funny bit that he licensed from McLean. Very funny, and oh my gosh, there's it would be fun to that if he would be inclined to do them again. A little bit of fun there.
National Hockey League news. Let's finally get to the meat of it here.
Yeah.
Stop goofing around.
No kidding.
The Maple Leafs head coach Sheldon Keefe called out his team's elite players after their 4-2 loss to the Arizona Coyotes. Toronto went 0 for 4 on the power play before William Nylander's goal in the third, and were tied 13-13 in shots with Arizona through 40 minutes. They did end up winning the third period 15-6, so that changed. But the quote after the game that, got a lot of people's attention: our best players have not found their rhythm. The difference between us and Arizona is that we have elite players. Our elite players didn't play like elite players today, couldn't make a difference. So in that sense, the game is going to be close, end quote. Before I get your reaction on that, the Toronto Maple Leafs have not beaten the Arizona Coyotes in Toronto in regulation since 2002, if you can believe that.
I couldn't believe that.
One of those really strange stats that kind of jumped out to me. They've beaten them in overtime, etc., just not in regulation for whatever that's worth. What's your take of Sheldon Keefe with these type of comments through 4 games of the season?
I think if Sheldon Keefe had a little bit more snap reaction, like if it was I find Keefe to be at one end of the spectrum and like Tortorella to be at the opposite end of the spectrum, I would have expected a bag skate. It's very strange. 2 nights in a row. So against Phoenix and against Ottawa, DJ Smith tried it, and Curtis Foster is the assistant coach actually in Phoenix. Congratulations. But Phoenix also tried it where they put their 4th line out against the top line, and it's kryptonite to the Supermen, to Austin and Mitch for some reason. The Leaf that was an unbelievably hard game to watch. I mean, even I am a Leaf fan, but even not as a Leaf fan, that unbelievably frustrating to watch. I like it. I like Keefe calling out you've got 4 dudes making $44 million. You better be moving the needle against Arizona on a nightly basis. 4-2. They scored 8 minutes left in the third, and then they scored again right away. The glove pass thing, get over that. You didn't deserve to win the hockey game anyways. I'm actually glad that it went the other way. But I like Keefe not calling them out personally. I'm never a fan of that. That doesn't make a guy better. But, him saying, the difference between us and Arizona is that we have elite players is 100% true. And you got beat by, Nick Ritchie, Lawson Krause, Christian Fischer. These are the guys that scored. Holy smokes.
What has been your assessment so far of the season? Obviously, some of that was particular to that effort, but some of that stems from maybe Sheldon Keefe not necessarily liking the start of the season through 4 games.
Sure.
For a lot of those guys.
Johnny T's been your best player. He's got 5 points.
Yep.
He's been the most consistent guy. Him and Nylander are delivering. Matthews is going to find his rhythm eventually, like every goal scorer does, and Mitch is the wizard. Mitch is the straw that stirs the drink there.
Mitch is 4 points in 4 games.
Yeah, he's played very nicely. He's been defensive. He's a power or penalty killing specialist. The Leafs, the pressure's never been higher right out of the gate for a goaltender, let alone a tandem, right?
And Matt Murray, a lot of people would say the one issue with him was that he's injury prone.
Yeah.
Sure enough, we've seen that already this season.
DJ Smith throws it out there, right? It's hard. It's right out of the gate. You'd better win for us because we had a guy that, Campbell didn't have any better debut. He allowed 4 goals and 10 shots against Calgary.
Yeah, but he won.
Well, he didn't win, but Edmonton did.
They won, my bad.
Yeah, but I don't know. Expectations are sky high right out of the gate, and a barely win against Montreal, a loss against Montreal, barely win against Ottawa, and a loss to Phoenix. Oof.
I saw an article in, I believe it was the Toronto Sun, and some of it is just let's garner views and clicks and stuff, but it said, is it too soon to put Sheldon Keefe on the hot seat? And then I thought, originally I said, come on, 4 games in, whatever, okay, a couple of bad losses, no problem. And then the more I thought about it, the more I was like, boy, that tells us that, was it Dubas entering the season without a contract extension?
Mm-hmm.
It's a cliche at this point, but if ever there was a team that was really in we got to be all in and we got to go for it now, and maybe Dubas starts to feel that pressure up there saying, wow, if this is not going the way I want it to go, I don't have a lot of security to wait around, so I might need to pull the trigger maybe quicker.
Yeah.
Is that fair? Or do you think that that's a little bit of, hey, wait a minute, we got to wait till we're about 20 games?
I'd really like to know, from a president's standpoint, the guy above the general manager to think, does the narrative change if there's a hot shot coach, free agent available? If a Barry Trotz is available or something like that, that might change the temperature a bit. I don't see an NHL coach that's sitting on a panel as an analyst on TNT or CBC or anything like that, TSN, to think that that's possible. You probably do have the best. Is it possible that a guy like Keefe, his words aren't being heard in the room? I think 4 games is probably a little bit soon.
So 3 NHL coaches have been fired after 4 games. I've looked it up. And 1 after 3 and then a couple after 1 that were one-offs.
Who do we got?
Some pretty big names. Denny Savard with the Blackhawks in 08-09. Ivan Halinko with the Penguins.
Yeah.
And then Jacques Demers with the Habs. And then Peter Laviolette fired in 3 games from the Flyers.
What year would the Habs would have been? 94-95?
95-96.
95-96. And then they bring in Tremblay, who then has the situation with Patrick Waugh. Yeah. They might want a do-over on that one.
Yeah.
No Paul Thompson got fired by the Blackhawks after 1 game in the 40s. See, I think...
Here, I guess ultimately, okay, 4 games in, you want them to be 4-0. They're not 4-0. Some of the best players on the team, they're still getting into the flow of the season. My opinion is, for Leaf fans, what are you concerned about? Are you concerned This team is way too talented and way too good. You don't need to worry about missing the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be ample opportunity for them to get into the playoffs. So it's not like you're teetering, you're projecting to be a wild card team. So if you start losing, 5 of 6 early in the season, it sucks.
Yeah.
We figured out last year, the regular season doesn't mean a lot beyond pomp and circumstance.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
You could finish lower in the standings and have a better matchup for yourself in the way that the playoffs are structured. So that's the why I'm like, I get it. There's going to be frustration. There's probably still frustration from last year in the playoffs, and it's just boiling over. But at the same time, just relax.
Yeah.
You're going to make the playoffs. You're going to get into the tournament. And the last time a President's Trophy team won the Stanley Cup, probably the 08 Red Wings. You're going back a ways.
Yep.
Maybe the Blackhawks in the shortened season. I can't remember. But it's just one of those things that's the part that makes me scratch my head is why the panic button super early?
Yeah. I don't understand. What,
You'll be fine.
You'll be fine. I understand the getting into the top 3 and wanting to create some home ice advantage for yourself and these sorts of things, but we're not talking about a team that's going to circle the drain for the wild card here. It's going to end up being the 7th or 8th pick.
There are very good chances if you just wrap your head around it mentally so it doesn't kill you later on in the season. You're going to play Boston, Tampa Bay, or Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gear up against those teams.
I guess the only thing for me is that Tampa Bay is also, Tampa Bay's 1-3 to start the season. Stamkos is on an unbelievable high. He's got 6 goals already. They got beat by the Rangers. Okay, fine. You got beat by the Flyers. Holy smokes. Who's on the more red alert? Mm-hmm. So don't worry. You can't lose the division. You can't lose a playoff spot in October. So just make it relax. It's fine. You're going to be all right.
I think part of it is, and we talked about the goaltending, I think it's people's confidence in the goaltending down the stretch.
Yeah.
If you're not getting the points now, are you going to get them later?
Sure.
Because goaltending, that's very clearly, I think, the weak point of this team.
I think the goaltending is going to be on a short leash anyways. If they find that Murray and Samsonov are both laying eggs on a nightly basis, Willie's going to get traded, and he's going to get traded for a frontline youngster. He's going to be an Ilya Sorokin. He's going to get a lower-end, front-end job or goalie.
Maybe good news for the Toronto Maple Leafs. The NHL salary cap could jump by over $4 million next season if the league meets its revenue projections. Gary Bettman was quoted as saying, "We believe there's good probability that the escrow will be paid this offseason, which means the flat cap would be replaced by a bigger increase." The NHL and the NHLPA signed a new collective bargaining agreement in 2020. They agreed that the salary cap remained flat at $81.5 billion until hockey-related revenue surpassed $3.3 billion for the previous season. So it sounds like they're trending in that direction. It's always interesting to talk about salary caps, but I know that there's been a little bit of a pinch for a lot of teams with the cap staying flat, and they usually project that it will go up slightly. Mm-hmm. That could be something to keep your eye on if you're a Toronto Maple Leaf fan.
I mean, that's a 5% increase.
Yeah,
that's a big time increase.
Listen
for a team,
you.
well, 80
businessman,
easy. That 5%, that's a big swing. I mean, a $4 million swing, especially for a team that's got cap issues, and Toronto's not. They're not the only ones, but certainly, I mean, that's good news. It also means that obviously hockey financially is in a very strong state.
I didn't realize how much it's gone up. 05-06, it was $39 million.
Yeah.
And right now it's projected to be at 92 by 2026. Mm-hmm. So that's tripling.
The boys are getting paid.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
I wanted to get to this because I'm a bit of a broadcaster nerd. Does it hurt you guys that Ray Ferraro walked away?
Yeah.
Razor. For my money, the best color guy in the league the last 5 or 6 years, no doubt.
Him and Gord were beautiful together.
Yep.
Gord Miller, terrific.
I know he's polarizing with Pierre Maguire.
Yeah.
But Ray Ferraro came into a pretty difficult circumstance knowing that Pierre Maguire, for everyone who hated him, there were people that appreciated him, and he had been a staple and a fixture for so long.
Yeah.
And then Ray Ferraro immediately goes from the B team to the A team, doesn't miss a beat.
Yeah.
Outstanding. I found him insightful, an effective communicator, and low-key funny.
Yeah.
He would have comments that were extremely good.
Yeah.
And for him to not be doing that, that's a loss.
Yeah.
And it's good for him. He wants to go off and spend time with his family. And,
yeah.
And that's, you know what? He's certainly earned that right. But That's a big loss in broadcasting, man.
Yeah, it is. He was, and not for a guy that I would say is fringe. I think for somebody that people look forward to, certainly in the coverage, like his insight into the game. There was a guy like he was a heck of a hockey player, right? So, and same with his boy, Landon. These are good hockey lines. Yeah, that's a loss for not only for TSN, but
see, I'm a Pierre McGuire guy. I've
Really?
just always liked. I mean, for me, it's like the guy's knowledge by itself is so impressive to me.
Me too. I liked him.
And I get why people don't like him. He's a bit of an oddball. But Ray Ferraro, I think, is right there for the best. So yeah, it's a bit of a bummer.
like Pierre McGuire is the NHL's Craig Sager. Like no disrespect, Craig, but he is. That's 100% what he is. And I think he plays that moniker naturally. I don't think it's an act for Pierre. I think he gets genuinely that fired up. He hits the double D on in the World Junior Hockey Championship, and
Great call.
And it's a thing, yeah.
I had this tweet that I dug up from Richard Deitch, who used to be with Sports Illustrated, and he was on with Rogers for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And he was commenting on an article that was put together by Bruce Arthur about Ray Ferraro and his career as a broadcaster. And he said, this is a great piece. Read it. When I was at Sportsnet, both with Mr. McCowan and after they bought him out, our management would show us Ferraro's impact on Overdrive's ratings during his segments. He was a massive audience game changer. Canadians really respected his words. So if you believe Richard, the brass over at the Fan 590 would be coming in saying, like, look at what this guy's doing. Because he would do regular radio hits, right?
Yeah.
And if I was driving around in the car, I'd stay locked in with Ray.
Wow.
And there was great banter between all the hosts and Ray.
Yeah.
So the dynamic and the chemistry was right for that type of character. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm trying to think of marquee color guys. There's been so much changeover in the NHL broadcast the last couple of years with the ESPN deal and all of that I don't know if I kind of have. I mean, you'll have your staples, right? Keith Jones and Eddie Olczyk.
Yeah.
Kind of the American way. But
yeah.
I mean, I guess Craig Simpson's kind of left waving the flag. The one thing I will say about TSN, I've always been more of a TSN guy than a Sportsnet guy.
Mm-hmm.
I just for just about everything.
Yeah, same.
Except for baseball, I've always liked Sportsnet's coverage, which makes sense because they have the team.
Yeah.
But TSN has lost Chris Cuthbert, who immediately goes over and becomes the guy on CBC.
Yeah.
And now they've lost Ray Ferraro. And yet, even with that talent leaving, I haven't felt like their coverage has dipped at all.
No.
Like, they just have people that jump in and do a great job.
Right.
Yeah.
The difference, and I'd love to have that sort of discussion, like in depth, because Sportsnet, like TSN's been the sports leader, right? You can think of Jim Van Horen and Landsberg and Teresa Hergert and these sorts of people.
Brodsky and Dutch.
Yeah, like where they brought sports and entertainment and kind of brought them together. Darren Detition and Hedger and like so many pros where they've been consistent. Sportsnet comes in, they put $1 billion on the board for whatever it was, the 8-year deal, and they just started. They built and they thought Strombo and they thought this guy and this guy and this guy, and they just bought their way into the top, and it didn't work. TSN is still Duthie is still clutch, and Cheryl Pounder, this is her first year, and she's terrific, and Dave Poulin is terrific, and Drager and all these guys, they're still the staple for hockey for me.
Don't look now. That deal's up in like 2 years.
Sure.
3 years, 2025.
And that's a one-off. No one's paying $1 billion again.
No.
That was a 12-year deal as of 2013.
No one's paying that money again.
Oh, they paid $5 billion. So maybe somebody will pay $1 billion.
Sure. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
I'd be
Maybe
interested to
MNC.
see. Yeah, maybe MNC.
Well, that's the next venture.
It's the next venture. Patreon keeps going the way it's going. Bang. We'll call Bettman right now.
Emails. Let's get to that.
Oh,
Here
are we
is
doing it?
Sammy. Feels like we haven't done this in a few
You've
weeks.
got mail.
There we go. Gentlemen, I need to know your most disappointing NFL teams so far.
Ooh, jeepers.
This is a big board.
How long is this segment? For me, the team that jumps out right away is Baltimore at 3-3. This should have been, that division is for the taking.
They're still top of the division.
I
That's the
know,
worst part.
that's what I mean, 3-3. The most disappointing. Some of these teams, like the Washington Commanders, were guaranteed to be terrible.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, they're not the biggest surprise. Baltimore to me at 3-3 is probably the biggest surprise in the AFC because other than Mahomes and Allen, I mean, it jumps way off. Like Lamar should be in that conversation and he's not. If I had to take an NFC team that's been, oh no, you know what? No, I take that back.
Whoa.
The Denver Broncos are horrifying.
And every time you look, they're in primetime television, which doesn't make it easier.
Give me a freaking break, NBC, ESPN. Like, you're not even, like, you have the ability. Do they not have the ability to shift these games? I'd be taking Denver right out of the primetime slots and giving them, like, the 1 o'clocks in Jacksonville's. Holy crap, they're terrible to watch.
It's like it feels like a punishment when you have to watch a Broncos game.
Unwatchable television.
Al Michaels for 2 weeks in a row had Bronco games where he was literally under his breath being like, people deserve better than this. It's terrible.
No kidding. So Baltimore, Denver is the real number one. On the NFC side, nobody that I can really, the NFC East has been a wagon despite everything that's happened.
As a newly minted Chicago Bears fan, I'd like to chime in here.
Wow. The Bears are the Bears. They started
2-1, and I was like, "Oh, what a great decision I've made picking this."
What do they have? 120 passing yards?
Yeah, 120 passes. I think this season. Like they don't throw the ball, and I mean I get it. It's Soldier Field. It's muddy and whatnot. But yeah, I don't know. They're disappointing to me.
Who for you, Mercier?
You guys are letting a bunch of teams off. First of all, Denver would be one. And the interesting part about Denver, I have been, because I'm a Rams fan, and we'll get to them in a second. Because I've been a Rams fan, I've had to watch Russell Wilson throughout his entire career. Division rivals, and he's played in some big games, and I've always been thoroughly impressed. I don't know if someone's reputation can take this big of a nosedive with Russell Wilson, because now not only is he not playing well on the field, now you're hearing the whispers. Marshawn Lynch said part of the reason why he didn't like the experience in Seattle as much was Wilson has a way of alienating his teammates where he would have to go through his agent or manager to get his cell phone number. Like, you couldn't just pick up the phone and be like, "Hey, Russ, how's it going?
Really?
I want to talk about this player, whatever. Why don't you come over and we'll play some PlayStation?" You couldn't do that. You had to go through a manager.
Oh, wow.
And then Russell has a weird Instagram sort of style.
Yeah.
That he's dancing and the other day, ride Broncos, ride or whatever, after they had lost, and people are just thinking, this is a strange individual now.
Yeah.
The moment I found out he pays, $1 million a year to keep himself in shape, I started rooting against him immediately. I was like, no. You can't say that while I'm sitting here eating a pizza.
Okay,
That's
so
enough.
the Broncos, I think they're in a tier by themselves. But if we shift our attention to the NFC, what do we got here? Matt, double check that I'm right on this.
Yep.
3-3 Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah.
3-3 Green Bay Packers.
Oh, yeah, Green Bay.
3-3 LA Rams.
Yep. 49ers.
Woo.
I can give the Rams a pass. I think they really miss Von Miller on the other side of that football. I think Cam Akers, it's clear now that they don't see eye to eye. Yeah, him and McVay, that didn't just happen over 1 week. That's been something that's been building for months.
The NFC's just, I mean, other than the NFC East, it's just so, like, lukewarm. Like, the 49ers, Rams, Seahawks, Packers, Buccaneers, and Falcons are all 3-3.
But was there a bigger expectation on Tom Brady because he's Tom Brady? Like, look at that team. You strip that team, beside Godwin and Evans, you strip that team down. They're not very good. Leonard Fournette came in overweight. I don't know. Not great.
I think Tom picked the perfect time to walk away, and like every single great athlete we've ever known, comes back one too many times. And now, similar to the Russell Wilson thing, he does that weird press conference where he talks about going to training camp is like enlisting in the Army. And that obviously rubs people the wrong way because it's totally different, and the stakes are a lot different. He goes through the marital issues and the divorce proceedings and whatever. He flies separately to the game in Pittsburgh because he goes to Robert Kraft's wedding on Friday. And so you can't be half in when you're the leader of the team.
He's going to berate the offensive line when he goes to Kraft's wedding Friday night, flies in the private jet to Pittsburgh Saturday night, and he's going to, okay, boys, we're going to ride on Sunday afternoon. I'm going to rip you guys apart for being better.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Some missteps going on. with Tom Brady. I appreciate you giving my Rams a pass, but here's where I don't. I agree. Von Miller's been a great addition to Buffalo, and he would have been great on LA. They go out and they get rid of Robert Woods, who had been there for a long time, and they think they're upgrading with Allen Robinson. The chemistry just has not been there with Matt Stafford.
No kidding.
Last week, finally up over 60 yards and a touchdown, so good. But I'm looking at them, and if you remember the Super Bowl, and because I'm a fan, I've watched it about 20 times, but for those of you who, only watched it in the moment.
Are normal.
Remember the entire second half after Odell Beckham Jr. gets injured? It's like it's Stafford and Cooper Kupp against everybody.
Yes, correct.
And if Cooper Kupp's not open, the ball's not moving down the field.
Right.
And I've seen a lot of that through 6 games where it's not even that he's locked in. He just doesn't trust. And the system around him is not getting open to the point that he needs. So a lot of times it feels like even Cooper Kupp's going to have 12 catches and 120 yards. And guess what? They're only going to score 16 points.
I can get behind that for sure.
So to me, I look at Sean McVay and I say, what are you doing to be able to get playmakers the ball?
Yeah.
And so they have been disappointing to me.
Mm-hmm.
The Green Bay Packers, are we watching? This one I could almost see coming in a way because they lost so many weapons and because it literally was Aaron Rodgers.
And 4 kids.
And the kids
at
against
wide receivers.
Everybody else.
Yeah.
But still, if you were to come into the season, the 3 teams I'd say that were favorites to win would be, the Bucs, the Packers, and the Rams.
Yeah.
And now it looks totally different. And then you just mentioned the NFC East, who the Eagles, how do you argue against them being a top 3 team in the NFL right now? You can't.
Pretty easy road ahead for the Eagles.
And a pretty easy road ahead for them. The Giants, maybe the most remarkable 5-1 team ever.
But the Giants are underdogs this week in Jacksonville. So nobody respects them.
No.
Like the street doesn't respect them. That's a tough one.
Danny Dimes,
yeah, no kidding. All they're doing is winning football games.
The season ending with the Eagles and Giants in January could be a treat because they played last week.
It could be, but doesn't everybody expect this team to start 5-1 and finish like 6-11?
Yeah.
Isn't that the
true.
expectation?
It wouldn't shock me. And I know world famous Jimmy listens to this podcast all the time. And
absolutely.
He, like my father, is a lifelong New York Giants fan. And he said he's been enjoying the wave. He doesn't know when it's going to end, but he's enjoying it.
Yeah, sure. That's good. Like I like that idea of Ainsley being, ride or die with the Giants because they're that type of team. But same with Dallas. Same with Dallas. Do we want to address that or not really? Do we want to just leave that in the ether, what happened to Mercier's voice there?
I think we're going to, hold on. I got sound effects for everything. He aged about 50 years in one moment there.
That's terrible.
Okay, listen.
He turned into an 85-year-old man.
Yeah, like what's he eating Benjamin Button over there?
So for everybody watching at home, like a lot of us out there, about a week and a half ago, I had a viral infection.
Yes.
And no, not COVID-19, did all the testing, whatever.
That's why he missed the show 2 weeks ago.
Don't at me.
Yeah.
The one thing that I haven't been able to shake is a little bit of the raspy voice going, and you just heard it come out there in all its glory.
We played it off so well, too.
I can't ratchet it up to 8 or 9 anymore. I got to stay at 6.
Is if that's at all possible, if we could cut that like Jim Rome, Alvin style, and then lay that out at some other point.
It was at about 32 minutes. I'll pull that one.
If we could pull that one and just cut it and keep it in the board, I would.
I don't even know what he said, but it was funny because of the way he said it.
I can't remember the words either. So we'll have to revisit it.
I'm sure whatever it was informative.
Absolutely.
If you understood it.
Of course.
Before we move on,
yeah,
I may have a lead on getting the champ on the show.
Come on, already?
I'm working on it. I texted somebody who knows everybody in Canadian radio.
Whoa.
And he said he does not have a contact for the champ, but he definitely knows somebody that does.
Oh, a friend of a friend of a friend?
Friend of a friend of a friend, yeah.
Jeepers. Too bad we didn't have a breaking news sounder for that.
No.
It's like the mafia in radio. You either know the guy or know the guy who knows the guy.
Sure.
So I think you know the guy who knows the guy who might know the guy.
6 degrees of separation.
Yeah.
I like it.
Another email for us is...
You've got mail.
A lot is being made of the 100-win teams being eliminated in baseball early. Do they need to rethink things? That's from Ryan. It feels like they've rethought things a couple of different times. One out of necessity during COVID, and now we see... the play into the ALDS. And I don't know. Look, for many years in baseball, I'm not going to become Bob Costas here and do a whole history lesson, but remember for a long time, pre-1968, it was just the winner of the leagues played in the World Series.
That's right.
So you would always get a good matchup of teams that would win between 95 and 105 games. It was always marquee. They were teams that were really successful over 162 games.
Yeah.
Then they bring in the league championship series and a best of 5, and now you get, some upsets, because baseball is a game that, again, is built to be played over 162 games. When you put in short series, random acts can happen.
Yeah.
And then you add in the division series, and now you add in the wild card, and now you're opening yourself to the possibility of upsets, which most of us have found entertaining in other sports.
Yeah.
Like when the Golden State Warriors upset the Dallas Mavericks.
Sure.
Everyone's all excited. Anytime my Red Wings would get dumped in the first round of the playoffs, everyone's super excited. March Madness is built on the prospect of upsets.
Right. Exactly.
But in baseball, we're not accustomed to it because we don't have as long a history with it.
That's right.
So now people are like, wow, the Dodgers, they win 111 games and they're out. That's what happens when you have a short series.
No, 100% it is. In a best of 3 or in a best of 5, it's a performance-based bit. The Atlanta Braves going down, the Los Angeles Dodgers going down.
The Mets.
And the Mets.
Yeah.
But, on the other side of the ledger, you still were the Yankees necessarily the best team in the second half of Major League Baseball season?
No.
Houston Astros. But you're going to get that again. You're going to get that ALCS of Yankees and Houston that many pundits would have picked at the beginning of the season. So I don't think, to the emailer's point, I don't think that you do anything to restructure it. I think sometimes just good teams lose.
Yeah.
And in a best of 5, your ace loses opening night. Oof.
It's an uphill battle from there.
It's the only thing I can think of. In the NBA, they used to have first-round series were best of 5, right?
Yes.
And then they decided to go to a best of 7, and I think stats would bear out that you don't see as much in the way of ones losing and twos losing, because it's just that much harder for those teams that are less talented to win 3 out of...
Sure.
Has a 1 seed
4 out
ever
of
lost
7
in the first round of the NBA?
Yeah, totally.
Against an 8?
Definitely.
Yeah, I think...
Well, I
Doesn't
remember...
happen a lot.
You can throw it on the magic box here, but I know one that immediately jumps to mind. Well, I just pointed one out. When the Warriors beat the Dallas Mavericks, they won 67 games that year, and then they were dumped in the first round. And I remember the first real, whoa, upset for me was there was one year where Gary Payton and the Sonics lost in a 1-8.
Yeah, they did.
And that was a best of 5 format?
94.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it like Denver Nuggets or something? It's not a great team that got them.
Yeah, it was the Nuggets.
Yeah, I remember that.
Nuggets, the Knicks in 99 against the Heat.
Yeah. Lakers nearly on Sacramento, but then David Stern and the Mafia stepped in. And then
I guess it has happened a couple times.
The
I
Knicks,
thought it was super rare.
The Knicks that year were the first 8 seed to go to the final. They lost to San Antonio. Now, that was also a 8 seed in quotations because it was only the 50-game season.
That's right.
I'm led to believe they were a better team than what they showed, and they probably would have moved up the rankings later on. But I'm also not bitter that they beat my Pacers in the conference final that year.
No, of course you're not. That's why we bring it up every week.
Raptors storylines. The Toronto Raptors getting going. I'm trying to figure out how excited I am about this team.
Yeah.
And the one thing that kept coming to my mind when I was looking at storylines for the Raptors, what actually are the goals for this team if you're a fan?
It's a good question.
So
I don't know.
I'm not excited for the Raptors season. And I've come to the conclusion that the Raptors fan base on Twitter is the single most annoying fan base. And I'm somebody, I had a Raptor show.
Yes.
Followed a lot of Raptor people. The
The
Rap
Rap
Sheet
Sheet.
way back when.
Iconic.
But Raptors fans on Twitter, they're just, to me, for some reason, they're insufferable. I don't mind Jays fans. I don't mind Leaf fans, and I'm a Habs fan. But the Raptors fans, it always seems like this false sense of we're the second best team in the East.
That's true. Not knowing where you were going with that, but now that's 100% right.
And then they get upset when everyone projects them from 6th to 10th.
The Raptors, I have a hard time getting excited about the Raptors because I feel like the NBA is a star-driven league. Scotty Barnes is a nice player. Fred VanVleet is a nice player. They're the type of not Barnes, but VanVleet he's the iconic Toronto athlete. We don't want the star, and we don't appreciate when we have the stud, but when we have the blue collar guy, We have Kyle Lowry, Kyle Lowry was
he was an all-star.
He was an all-star, but he's 13th on the list of that side of that conference all-stars. But a guy like Van Vliet, he's like the working man's hero, right? He's like the common man's hero.
Yeah. Undrafted, good story.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just for me, I feel like the expectations from Raptors fans are always so crazy unrealistic. And I get it because you won a championship 3 years ago.
Maybe they're still basking in the glow.
I think they never really got the glow to begin with, to be honest.
There's people that
because they didn't get to defend it properly.
There's people that think there's Raptors fans that think Pascal Siakam is like a top 10 player in the NBA.
I know.
And I like Pascal Siakam.
He took a heck of a step when Leonard left.
But he's not a top 10 player in the NBA.
Oh, my God. And you know what the other thing about Raptors is? And like the Jays suffered from this for a little bit, and the Leafs suffered for this endlessly in the John Ferguson Jr. era. Every young guy is like the next guy.
Yeah. Precious Achua, people are telling me, is going to win most improved this year.
Like Thaddeus Young and Otto Porter and like
Gomez.
Gary Trent Jr. Like these are all the next guys. These are guys that are playing out of necessity. Not because the Raptors, they can't afford OG Anunoby. Like
OG Anunoby, I like.
Sure.
And he has been, I think, one of the best defensive players in the Eastern Conference. But I mean, to expect that he'll become this crazy two-way player, I think is unrealistic at this point.
They're going to make
judging by your tone, they're a playoff team, but after that remains to be seen.
I put them at
maybe in number 6, lose in the first round.
Yeah, like I think if they get hot, they can finish, fourth. Maybe
there's other teams that are going to take a step on them this year. Like the New York Knicks are going to take a step, and they're going to go over top of Toronto. Brooklyn should be better. Philly seems to be cooking now with Harden 100 pounds lighter, reportedly. Give me a break, 100 pounds.
Coming up on Monday, it is the municipal election.
Yes.
Across Ontario. Super excited about that. Get out and vote.
Get out and vote for sure.
Yes. A lot of people don't end up voting, and it's a cliche, but this is the election that actually impacts you probably the most.
Absolutely. These are your neighbors.
Schedules and all that kind of stuff. So
absolutely.
Get out there and vote. I thought it would be fun to come up with our sports city councils. So I want you to elect a mayor and 5 councilors. Mm-hmm. And the best part is the only criteria, no criteria.
No criteria.
Love it. So
it could be your 5 favorites. It could be 5 who you think are the best. It could be the best statesman for their particular sport. We could do it a whole bunch of different ways, Matt.
I ended up with 6 different countries represented. So mine's more of a United Nations, I think.
Okay.
A little diversity. I like it.
So I've got, and you worded this to us by naming your favorite athletes.
Sure. Yes.
And I had to think about who my actual favorite athletes are. Because when I think about my favorite athletes, I think about people that aren't playing anymore. But one for me was Carey Price. Like, that's my mayor. Why not? Cowboy hat? Come on.
Sure.
So that's the Canadian. Then I've got Cole Caulfield. Erling Haaland, who you guys probably aren't soccer fans. He's dominating the Premier League. Big Norwegian dude.
I forgot Mr. Norway here.
Yeah,
right.
Of course.
Okay. Yeah.
Luka Doncic.
Okay.
Alex Ovechkin.
Okay.
And UFC fighter Paddy Pimblett. Paddy the Batty, more famously known.
What about Cowboy Cerrone?
I guy's a bum. Sorry, Cowboy. You only had a UFC contract so McGregor could win.
For the record, Paddy Pimblett is an absolute machine.
He's a jab.
He's a weapon with his fists, clearly, and then with the yap right after. I love it. He's a
chatterbox, and my favorite thing about him is that between fights, he looks like me. Like, this guy eats so much food, he puts on about 50 pounds.
Wow.
I don't have any of those guys on my council.
No, mine's a pretty weird one.
I've got Josh Allen as the mayor.
Yes.
Josh is a good community guy. He's Western New York. He does all the ads. So Josh he's my mayor. And then I've got a couple of workers, right? You need a couple of guys that are like doers. So Mitch is a doer, Mitch Marner. Mitch is a guy. He's cohesive. He's going to keep the team together. I've got a doer in Connor McDavid. McDavid also a doer. And then the other 3 guys are kind of like they're the spotlight guys. These are the guys that have the biggest voice around the table. I've got Albert Pujols. Albert's a beautiful, beautiful human.
703.
703. LeBron James. Yep. He's been at a high level for so long. We could really use that on any council. And then I've got Tiger Woods.
Wow.
Oh,
Tigers. So we've got a little bit of diversity there. We've got 5 major pro sports covered.
A lot of star power on yours.
What do we got on yours, Mercier?
So I'm going to go mayor here. I'm going to go Rafael Nadal as my mayor.
okay.
What a season for Rafael Nadal. He wins 2 slams. He's 1 up on Djokovic. It's going to happen again here. Can you hear my voice?
I hear it.
Yeah, I
It's
can
going.
hear it. Yeah, it's going.
So I've got him in there. He actually only lost 1 match in a Grand Slam this year, and it was to Francis Tiafoe in the U.S. Open because he had to withdraw from the semifinals of Wimbledon, so he didn't actually lose per se. So I've got Rafael Nadal here. I've got my counselors. How do I not go with the captain of my Detroit Red Wings, Dylan Larkin?
Larkin, okay.
Underrated player, made a heck of a play the other night when it looked like L.A. was going to ice a game, and he dove from behind. They ended up tying it. Red Wings off to a good start. Dylan Larkin, lead back Hockey Town, baby. I mentioned him earlier. I'm going Cooper Kupp because I still think he's the most explosive offensive weapon right now in the National Football League. Just wish he could get a little bit of help. The next 2 are kind of like in-the-moment picks for me. I'm going to go Nikola Jokic. Why? Because he is bidding to become the first player since Larry Bird to win 3 straight MVPs.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Jordan didn't do it. Magic Johnson didn't do it. Only been done by Bill Russell, Wilt Chamberlain, and Larry Bird.
Yeah.
My sense is the media will not allow that to happen.
Yeah.
Because they didn't with LeBron, and he probably should have won 5 in a row.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of fatigue there, but it's an interesting storyline to watch. And last but not least here, I don't know if you checked this out, Kyle Schwarber, who hit a 488-foot home run off Yu Darvish last night.
Monster.
And, of course, being a Cubs fan, I watched him hit a bunch of those, namely one in the wild card game in 2015 off Garrett Cole into the Allegheny River in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Never turned out to be as good a hitter as I thought, like someone who's basically a glorified Adam Dunn almost, like 220 with home. But boy, when he gets them, he gets them.
He's a hired gun. You know, like
he isn't exactly a hired gun.
He is a hired gun, like the definition of it. But
how the Yankees haven't got him with that short porch?
No kidding.
In right field?
Is like Anthony Rizzo, like built for like a perfect left-handed bat for Yankee Stadium. Kyle Schwarber, like that thing came off the bat at 120 mile an hour. Whew. That thing was a laser beam.
I'm going to give an honorable mention on my council to Joey Votto.
Just all-around good guy?
He's hysterical. Sure. He's so funny. Every council needs a jokester.
The worst part about him is that he's going to play 1 more season at least.
Yeah.
And I think that's it. And his batting average for his career, I think, has sunk to like 299.
I know. He's not going to retire with the 300 career hitter. You got to bring Joey home, no?
I would have loved that.
Don't you have to repatriate him in some sort of way? Especially, like, he had a little bit of tumultuous there bit with the Jays and, like, the whole Canadian, like, I'm Canadian too. Where's my whatever?
Yeah,
He's got a 297 going.
I know. That's such a shame.
Last year, he bat 205.
Yeah, so to get it back above 300, probably unrealistic. He'd need to hit, like, 330 or something.
Yeah.
Not going to happen.
No.
Good on base percentage still to this day, though. Probably 413?
412.
412.
Mm-hmm.
So that is going to go down as probably his most, and I think he's been known as a great walks guy. The best walks guy since Bonds. Yeah,
sure.
Since Bonds, for sure. We've got a couple of things that we need to hit here before the end of the program. By request, Matt Latour teased the fact that he has a Docs Box recommendation. The Docs Box, we don't do it every week. Sometimes we do. It is a recommendation of sports documentaries.
Yep.
What do we got?
Mercy is losing it there. I'll continue this.
You take it easy.
I don't know. Do you guys like Ryan Reynolds?
Yes. Van City Reynolds I find to be a very good follow.
I like Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah. I'm a big Ryan Reynolds guy. And as you guys may or may not know, he owns a 5th division English football team.
Yes.
Wrexham AFC.
Right. Wrexham.
Who, for the most part, have been terrible.
Wrexham, hardly knew him.
Yeah. Oh, ouch.
Oh,
easy.
The champ.
Whoa. Hey, everybody.
Hey, Wrexham, hardly knew him.
But there's a new documentary out on Disney Plus called Welcome to Wrexham, and it's about him and Rob McElhenney, who bought the team together, and just their kind of struggles and trials and tribulations of the first season. And I think it's quite good. And there's one episode where they kind of mock The Last Dance, just with the way they set up the interview angles, and it's they mention it as well. Like it's not, and he's watching one thing on an iPad and he's laughing and reacting.
Oh yeah, The Last Dance did invent that, and you're starting to see that in almost every documentary now. Just the reaction of people watching videos.
But I think it's quite good. It's a long, like it's I want to say 18 episodes. They're like,
Oh, wow.
they're like
Jeepers.
40 minutes each, though. So
Time do you think I have?
Yeah.
knock out a couple at a time. But I like it's a good watch. I like Ryan Reynolds and I like soccer.
Yeah, Ryan Reynolds, and it's like Blake Lively, his wife, is actually, she's a hilarious follow too.
Yep.
And I think there's part of that story where like Reynolds doesn't tell his wife that they've bought the club until like I thought there was something about that where, you know, she kind of got it out of him, like he was worried about something or some sort of result or whatever it was. He was married to Scarlett Johansson and then Blake Lively since I think for 10 years now.
Yep.
Blake Lively.
But
So
no,
He could
teach
teach us a thing or two, is what you're saying.
I think he probably he knows a thing or two. Yeah, Ryan Reynolds, Wrexham, yes.
It's a charming watch because it's a small town soccer team too, and it's all about community sport and whatnot.
I like it. The Doc Box.
Mono y mono by request. Mark, tee this one up here.
Mono y mono by request. So this week, fan of the show, Jamie Adams.
So it's me versus Mercier.
No, what do you mean? Why does that have to be you versus Mercier?
Well, you know the topic.
I know the topic, but I didn't.
He knows the topic.
Well, I didn't. Yeah, but
I don't know the topic.
Well,
That's an unfair advantage.
We're unveiling the topic right now.
Yeah, we're gonna roll it back. What do you
Take
think?
it
I
easy.
scoured the official book to be like, I gotta beat Latour this week and push my glasses
After
up my
last
nose.
week's Norris Trophy blowout.
Okay, now you're gonna watch yourself here now. Okay, Jamie Adams, fan of the show. Hey, Mark, how about a great mono-y-mono challenge of 5 NHL players who have scored 5 or more goals in an NHL game?
47 players have done it.
Okay.
What?
47 players have done it.
Oh no, I know 2.
Okay.
I'll try to give you, I know a couple, like there's some really obscure ones, and the only reason you know them is because they are like super obscure. So I'll go for the follies, and you try the hits, Latour.
Okay, can I go first then?
Mono y mono.
You can go first.
Do we got the Greed music at least?
Oh, that's right. We got music for this.
Okay. Let's 5.
Mario Lemieux.
For sure.
The beauty of Mario's was he did it one night, all 5 different ways.
Yeah.
Right? Full
Power
strength,
play,
power
shorthanded.
play.
Yeah. Penalty kill,
Empty net.
penalty shot.
Yeah.
There you go.
Unbelievable. Okay, Mario. I'm going to go Timo Meyer.
Making me look for this already.
I think he's like, he did it
He'd
last
be
year, I
one
think.
of the more recent ones.
Yeah. I think he did
Yes.
last year. Timo Meyer.
January 17th.
Marion Gaborik.
Yes. 2007.
Former Peterborough Pete, Mike Ricci.
Quebec Nordiques, 1994.
Correct.
Now we're in trouble. Wayne
Oh.
Gretzky, did he ever do it?
Yes,
Yeah.
4 different times.
Yeah, that makes sense.
For
He's
Wayne.
got 800 goals.
Bent Gustafson.
Yes.
Yes.
1984, Washington Capitals.
Bent is spelled Bengt.
Yes.
I want to say like Ryan Carter. No?
I don't even know who Ryan Carter is.
No.
I might be thinking of the wrong player then.
You're thinking of Joe Carter.
Or Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah. Ryan Carter just makes up.
Carter, sure. The other Washington Capital to do it was Peter Bondra.
Agent Bondra, also in February of 94.
Oh, wow.
So right around the same time Ricci did it.
Timu Solani?
Oh.
No.
Maple Leaf defenseman Ian Turnbull.
Yes. Is he the only defenseman?
I think he might be. There might be a guy like way back.
1977, a defenseman scoring 5 goals.
Yeah.
That's insane.
I remember having that hockey card.
No, he is the only defenseman, yeah.
Patrick Laine?
Yes. He
I
stays
remember
alive.
The night that happened, I was at an MMA event, and the reporter next to me was from Winnipeg, and he told me all about it.
Cowboy Cerrone fighting.
Nope.
Jesus. Sergei Fedorov.
Yes.
Yes.
OT winner against the Capitals.
Scored all 5.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to keep
1996.
Latour on the. I want a Zdeno Chara, Brian Berardum. Like I want to keep him up here.
I think I know one more.
Okay, there's one guy who used to wear number 9 for the Habs.
Oh, Maurice Richard?
Yeah, he did it 2 different times.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
But
See?
Richard scored all 5 in the game, and they gave him all 3 stars. And like before a time when that used to be a thing.
This was the famous, he was moving furniture and he got 8 points, which was the record. 5 goals, 3 assists.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then he did it later on the next year.
Speaking of a guy that had a big night, Daryl Sittler.
Yes. Also 2 different occasions.
Yeah.
The last one I think I know for sure. Matt Sundin? No way.
Oh, yes. No. Hold on.
Oh, cheapers.
Oh, that's
1992. Sorry. I didn't give Matt's enough credit there.
I think there's a super obvious one. If I told you the Quebec Bulldogs, would you know? From 1917?
No.
No. Joe Malone.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Joe
Must
has
have.
5.
Oh.
Career 5, which is the record.
That's the record. Okay.
There's got to be some like old school Habs.
There are definitely some old school Habs.
Newsy Lalonde, my guy.
He might be on that list.
Yes, 1921. 1921, New Zealand.
Do we have Yari Curry?
Yes,
Yes.
it's on there. 2 strikes to none here, by the way.
If I ask if he said somebody, is that a strike?
No.
Only if I use it as an answer.
It's okay.
Joe Nieuwendyk? Did he say Joe Nieuwendyk?
No one said Joe Nieuwendyk.
1989, Joe Nieuwendyk.
Oh, there you go. Then the big rookie year, 51 goals.
Whitby's own.
Yeah.
He is Whitby's own.
I'm like out now. That was
The Mule. Johan Franzen.
Yes.
Oh, really?
Franzen.
Against the Ottawa
yes.
Senators. 2011.
How many strikes do I have?
2. You're done, buddy.
Yeah, I think I might be. It's my turn.
I know, but I can give you another one.
No.
Okay.
Give me the initials.
We've got 2 minutes left in the show.
Oh boy. Okay. I could end it and be wrong, but I'm not going to. Jaromir Jagr?
That's it.
I'm gonna look up.
I had a couple of guys for sure. Brian Trottier.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
2 different ones.
The Road Runner, Yvonne Cornway.
I have to do a little searching for.
I think he's there, Cornway.
Yes, he is. Reggie Leach would be there.
Reggie Leach, yes, good.
John
Howie
Tonelli.
Morenz?
Oh, John Tonelli, yeah.
The Stratford Street, Howie Morenz.
Willie Lindstrom,
Yep.
also like super random. Willie Lindstrom.
Boom Boom Jeffrion, who I thought was a defenseman up until last week.
Alexei Zhamnov.
Oh wow.
That's an obscure one.
Yep. Dave Anderchuk, 1986.
Oh,
Shout out to
sure.
Super Dave.
Davey.
He's getting it done. And any other notables on here? Yeah, Boom Boom would be Howie Meeker.
Oh wow.
1947.
Yeah, this could be those guys like
Yeah, Babe Dye.
Babe Dies, Cy Dennehy.
Red Green. Who would have thought? 1924.
Duct tape.
Duct tape forever. All right, there you go. There's the Mono e Mono challenge as dedicated to
Jamie Adams, thanks very much.
Jamie Adams. You are listening to the Capital PTBO Sports Show and MNC Podcast Production simulcast on your TV, Peterborough, Lindsay. You can come check us out at the Capital PTBO at 370 George Street. Support us anytime, patreon.com/Capital PTBO. Shout out to Goldfinger Personal Injury Law.
Yes.
For Mark Million and Matt Latour. I'm Jordan Mercier. You've been listening to the Capital PTBO Sports Show. We'll talk again next week.